really poor decisions, and you end up hurting other people besides yourself.
I'm not free at all. I can't go 5 minutes in a day without thinking about it.
It took everything from me. Self-respect, morals, in and out of jail, unwanted pregnancies, my whole life.
You know, I've had friends that just died a month ago from it. I had to go to the funeral high because, you know, I couldn't even make it to it unless I was high, you know. So I'm talking to these family members that just lost their son, you know, from the direct use of it, and I'm over there, you know, going to their funeral high.
Junkies are slaves to their addiction. In order to keep chasing the high, they lie, they cheat, they steal, and often end up in jail. They destroy families and friends. It's a living hell.
That's one thing about this lifestyle is trying to figure out how you're gonna get it, and when you got it, how you're gonna get some more.
He pawned, God knows how much stuff.
When you get in the middle stage of heroin addiction, that's a full-time job. Your work is finding ways and means to get more drugs. Addiction causes you to develop all kinds of cognitive distortions. AA calls it stinking thinking. And so you've learned how to move from a life of integrity to duplicity. And if you've used long enough, not only does everyone else believe your lies, you started to believe your own lies.
And then there's the money. A dose of heroin can cost just $10 to $15 on the street. But if you've been addicted for a while and you need more, it can cost up to $150 or more a day.
Her and her boyfriend stole probably about $2,200 from me.
$1.5 million of my father's money, of my parents' money, and their life savings, plus my own money.
I used about $14,000 in 1 year.
They'll steal from parents, from family, from neighbors to support the habit. You get into prostitution. Substance abuse leads to an increase in domestic violence.
And yet sometimes jail is the only thing that can bring a family peace and help the addict.
Just about every time I've arrested somebody for heroin and put them in our jail, either they'll say thank you that time or a couple of days later after they're off their dope.
Okay, Andrew, step back for me.
In prison I couldn't use. Wasn't killing myself. I was happy.
The only time I was able to sleep at night was when she was in jail.
It stretches your family from every corner. It's constant chaos.
My house was a circus, and I had 2 other children that I had to protect, and they had to see it all.
It will tear a family apart.
Cheryl knows too well the anguish a family suffers. Her daughter, Becca, tried alcohol and pot. Cheryl thought it was normal teenage experimentation. Then Becca tried heroin, and the addiction took its awful grip.
Becca progressed quickly. She started drinking. I caught her at 14 with a cousin on New Year's Eve. I actually started laughing that every kid experiments. Now I look back and I wish I had taken it a lot more serious, gave her more consequences, watched her closer. Before I knew it, she was into full-blown addiction. And at age 17, admitted she was into heroin. Couldn't have been my child, but it was. I realized that I was enabling her. I was still giving her money to go do things, and here she was using the money for drugs. We started a little support group of several moms. You can't do this alone.
Becca's in rehab now and trying to stay clean, but some stories have a different ending. 4 Ohioans are killed by this insidious drug every day. Many of them are young. That's when their moms and dads receive the most devastating news.
When you have to go and tell the family the worst news they could possibly ever get. We arrive, put your hat on. I don't know if it's perhaps a sign of respect or trying to buy that extra couple seconds before we walk up to the door. And the only words that I've ever been able to use at that point are, I'm sorry. It's happening too often.
No one wants that call, but the truth is heroin and opiate drugs are killers, whether it's a dose too big, dose too pure, or one not pure enough. This is Dennis Michelson's door here at the Geauga County Safety Center. He's a drug counselor. When I first met him, this entire door was covered with obituaries of people who died from heroin overdose in Geauga County. Now there's too many to post. He just keeps the number. 58 so far. 4 have died since we started working on this program. So what happens when you overdose?
When heroin is injected, heroin is immediately transferred into morphine in the liver. Over time, that respiratory depressant will start to depress the cardiac and respiratory cycles. And patients become unconscious and can vomit and aspirate into their lungs and die.
There's a shocking secret about overdose. The addict is the least affected person. They feel nothing. So if they survive, they usually go right back to using.
One of the most exhilarating feelings for an addict is to overdose and survive. It's almost like, whoa, that was really something.
When he woke up from ODing, the first thing he said was, "They killed my buzz." And he wanted to go get high again. I mean, that's how bad the addiction is.
The person can slip from being high to stopping breathing and being dead without a moment's notice.
Those fortunate enough to survive an overdose or never have one, the road to recovery is painful and long. Detox is the first stop. Those who've lived it say it's worse than the hell of addiction.
Every inch of your skin's crawling. You're hot 1 minute, then you're cold the next minute. It's worse than hell.